Okay, welcome to the TCBC Bicycle University for March 27th, 2025. My name is Edward Eroe, and I'm the coordinator for Bike U tonight. We have a session on the TCBC swap meet with Valerie Olson and Linda Johnson. Before we begin, however, I have a few short announcements. This is the third session of Bike U for the 2025 TCBC ride year. If you have not heard the previous sessions on the fundamentals of group riding, bicycling into your 80s and beyond, and sessions from the 2024 ride year, we did sessions on the Tuesday tune-up ride, bicycle commuting, bicycle maintenance, randoneering, the Minnesota Bicycle Alliance, and free bikes for kids, as well as a number of sessions from the 2023 and 2022 ride years. So we've built a nice library, and I always tell people if you have a rainy day, go into the YouTube channel and you see all kinds of good programs to listen to. Um, you can get to all the sessions off the TCBC main website. Just find the Bicycle U page, which is just up on the top. Click on that, and then you get to all the sessions. And there's a quick link there too to get to all the YouTube recordings. We'll be recording the session tonight. We'll also be up after the conclusion of this meeting, and I have a little bit of time. I always like to go through and edit and make sure that everything is good and then upload it to YouTube. I want to thank our TCBC Council of Regents, which includes John Benda, Tim Rand, Dan Miller, and Mary Miller. If anyone else would like to join the council, please contact me as we welcome others to participate, and we want the council to be representative of the entire club. And additionally, we want to cover subjects that you all want to hear. During the session tonight, please keep your audio muted, but do keep your video on so that we can show who's in attendance tonight. When you're recording, if you don't have yourself on mute and there's any kind of noise, the video switches to you, so it kind of messes up our recording. There will be a question and answer session after the presentation, but during the meeting, you can enter questions in the Zoom chat function. So just find that in your software there. I'll be monitoring that and make sure that we get all your questions asked to our speakers. So I'd like to introduce our speakers. First, Valerie Olson lived in the Twin Cities for most of her life, but recently just relocated to California. She joined the club around 1990 and founded the TCBC Swap Meet in 2004, organizing it for the first 15 years. In 1995, Valerie rode her bicycle across the USA, then in 2000 around the world. I think we need a whole session on that, Valerie. That's just amazing. Valerie travels part-time and is a member of a solo RV club. She enjoys traveling, hiking, bicycling, enjoying the many amazing national, state, and regional parks are her favorite pastimes. Linda Johnson, Linda has been a garage sale junkie. I never knew this about you, Linda. Shopping them or even having one. She coordinated a large annual handcrafted gifts and home goods boutique with over 100 vendors for 25 years and did everything from advertising, setup, point of sale, and to cleanup. Linda sold handcrafted folk art and custom woodcraft at a local shop and helps manage it part-time. She also worked for the Independent School District 624 in the health office, and including elementary, middle school, and in high school for 29 years. Linda is currently a ride leader, has been one of the top riders as far as mileage for both the club miles and green miles for several years now. So we'll start out with our questions. And the first section, we wanted to do a little bit on history. And I know, Valerie, this would probably be good for you. How was the idea for us? How did this idea for a swap meet come up? Was it based on what other clubs were doing, or just explain how we got into that?
Yeah, as I said, I'd been in the club for quite a while, and people kept saying, "We should have a swap meet. We should have a swap meet. We should have a swap meet." And it's like, fine, I'll do it. So that's kind of how it happened. And then having organized many things, I know enough to that I went to the board and I said, I will do it if I can do it this way. This is how I propose to do it. If you want it different or more elaborate, then good luck, find somebody else. And they're like, no, 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 great, do it, great. So that's kind of what happened there. And then, yeah. So,
How did you find a location?
at the first year actually was in a tiny church basement in, what do you call that area? Linden Hills area. Just because I was familiar with that venue and, of course it was pretty crowded and everything, but we got a cheap price on it and then, moved to the VF or the, yeah, VFW after that. So.
And then what worked and what didn't work for the first few years? I mean, what did you learn and how did you keep improving?
It's kind of piggybacking, I think what you're going to ask later, but my approach was just to keep it as simple as possible. Uh, I didn't want to assign tables. I just didn't want a lot of overhead to it. It's like, hey, come on in, first come, first serve. Have it, put your stuff. If we got too crowded, just said, hey, everybody scooch down, and everybody was great. I don't think we did the first year, but then because we had extra space, I started to invite like nonprofits like the AIDS Ride and MS 150 and so on, and they'd put up a little display and so on. So yeah, I think just keeping it real informal, just there just wasn't any reason to make it harder than it needed to be. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you advertise the program? Did you learn things over the years to how to better advertise it?
Originally, I put it out on Facebook. Oh gosh, I emailed all kinds of groups and every kind of club or organization I could come up with. I had a little flyer and I drove around to bike shops and put it in their rack with all the MS 150 rides and stuff like that. And then the advertising coordinator had reached out to some of the people that advertised with us, or, like I said, again, the MS 150 or whatever, and said, hey, by the way, you can have free space and so on. So I worked kind of hard at it, maybe the first 3 years. And then after that, it just like, hey, people know what it is and when it is. And I really didn't put much effort into trying to advertise.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the stories over the years. And these are just if you want to add other things, I just thought of a few questions. I mean, what are some funny stories from over the years? And Linda, you pipe in here too. So go ahead.
I'll just say the first thing I learned was that if I think, I can't remember, we started at noon or whatever, and so I was there at about 22. Oh my God, everybody was lined out the door to set up. So I learned I had to be there way early because everybody was going to be there early. And if the event started at 1, people would be there at 12:45 to shop. So I just had to give plenty of time for that. I don't know if there's any real funny stories. I did have an incident once where the guy had brought like garage sale junk, like junk. He had bike stuff too. So somebody alerted me to it. So I walked over as polite as could be and said, hey, this is for bicycling. And he starts arguing with me. And I'm like, I am the organizer. Well, it didn't say that on the website. I'm like, yeah, I wrote the website. I know that it says that. And he's arguing with me and he's arguing with me. And I said, you have two choices. You can keep your bike stuff. You need to put your other stuff away, or you can leave. And he's like, well, I want to talk with who's in charge. I'm like, you are. And so I think Pete was, I remember who was the president at that time. I think it was Pete. I walked over, they're like, oh yeah, we know that guy. Yeah, don't worry about it. I said, you're gonna get a complaint. So I don't think he ever complained, but anyhow, yeah, he just wanted to argue with me. I'm like, yeah, you're not winning this one.
What were they trying to sell?
Just junk. I mean, he had dolls and dishes and I don't know what, just garage sale junk that had nothing to do with biking. I always like if you have skis or something like that, fine. That's close enough. I don't complain about that, but it was just junk. Yeah.
It wasn't
I,
exactly a garage sale. So, Linda, do
I
No.
you have
do
some?
remember that was the story I had heard also
Oh,
about
yeah.
somebody that did not have bike stuff.
Yeah. I mean, he did have bike stuff, but he had like, I just remember there was a bunch of dolls. It's like, yeah, that's not gonna, no, that's not what we're doing here today. And I guess the other thing I've had people complain, well, how come I have to be a member to sell? I'm like, well, and again, we're talking about the funding. When I first started this, I went to the bike club and I'm like, hey, I don't want to collect money. I don't, we've got some money in the kitty. The rent is cheap. You should pay for it. This should be a member benefit. And so people would come and every year somebody would argue with me. Why do I have to be a member? Well, because the club is paying for the venue, the club is providing the volunteers. That's why you have to be a member to sell. They always want to argue with me over it. Yeah. So
I had some financial questions later, but I might as well ask that. So there's never, it's always been a cost center for the club, right? It's just been a member benefit.
yeah, but it does the venue isn't that much. And it's like, hey, it's a member benefit. I think we can spring for this. Yeah.
How about any stories about, people being excited, oh my gosh, they got exactly what they were looking for, or a bike or clothing or whatever, anything for either one of you.
Well, I can attest for myself. I've gotten great shorts. I've gotten a bike dress that I absolutely love. And I think I got about 3 years worth of tires that fit my Madone, but now I don't ride my Madone. So it may take about 20 years to get through those tires. But no, I never go with anything specific in mind that I'm looking for. I just anything that catches my eye, and that's kind of the way I shop at garage sales.
So are we going to see those tires this year?
Nope, nope. I keep all my stuff. Hence the big house.
I just had one rule that was to sell more than I buy. And I think I
Correct.
stuck to that pretty well. Yeah.
So Valerie touched a little bit about the setup time, opening up early and stuff. So talk about that. And Linda, too, I know you've spent a lot of time. How does all that work? And I'm going to be selling some stuff this year. How's the setup? What should people that are selling, what time should they get there? What all they have to do? And how do you organize the setup and where people are?
Well, I kind of follow what Valerie set up. She's got a really good base setup. Everything went good. I had the same encounter the first year I took it over, where I thought, oh, I can show up maybe 20 minutes ahead of time. And I was like, whoa, no, I need to be here a lot earlier. So I did learn that. And then I needed my volunteers to come earlier too. I wanted them. I have some people that want to come quite a bit earlier, and it's like, well, no, you can't because we're paying by the hour. So it's first come, first serve. And someone said, well, it's going to take them about an hour to set up. And it's like, well, then get someone to come and help you and try to cut that down a little bit so you can be set up a little bit sooner. I think I lost what the question was.
I will say that piggybacks on one of the funny stories again, almost every year. Well, the first year I ran it for like 4 hours. Well, everybody came and went within the first 90 minutes. So I just shortened it up. And again, almost every year, somebody will come 5 minutes before it's done. There isn't anything left. Well, have you ever been to a garage sale? There's never anything at the end. You got to come early. But yeah, I get people complaining. I can't help you there. Sorry. You got to come early. Yeah. So, and again, we had talked about this offline a little bit. The volunteers are absolutely crucial. Like you said, I would have my volunteers come early, push tables and chairs or whatever, so that we were ready for the sellers and stuff to start coming. And then again, kind of talking background, and I'm sure you do the same thing. I kind of divided into groups. I had one group running the TCBC information table, one group running just a welcome table, and then as a benefit for the volunteers can bring all their own stuff, put a tag on it with your name and your price. And then I had a couple volunteers running the volunteer sales table. So those working the other stations could still get their stuff sold. I imagine you still do that. And that worked out really nice. So yeah.
And the volunteers get kind of the prime spot. So
As far as if they're selling stuff?
Yeah,
correct.
I always give them the table right by the door. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. How many volunteers does it take? What's the Is there a magic number or that you try to shoot for? Or
I always had plenty, and I had the same great people pretty much every year. I had 9 to 12, basically.
That's about what I've got too. I lost a couple this year, which is fine. And I just recruited a few more. And I like when they return because there's less explaining you have to do and everything. And I kind of have them in their own area. And then and they're doubled up so that they can move around real easily if they want to, or they get bored or want to take a break or go shop. You're never leaving an area unattended.
do
Um,
do the facilities actually provide the tables and stuff, and the volunteers have to set them up and then take them down, or how does that work?
When we were at the VFW, they would often have them set up for us and often just tell us to leave them. But a couple times, we had to just move things around, or we'd say, hey, can we take these down for you? Yeah, we have an event after. So, but most times the venue, you just work with the venue, what they want.
yeah, that's kind of how it is now. I go in the night before. I'll probably go in this week or one of the days next week and just kind of look because this school setting is a new middle school now versus the high school. I've got different tables, so I'm going to have to. I kind of need to know how I want to arrange things. And, they're kind of set up, but they've got benches on them. And do I want the benches up or down, or how do I want to? And then I really kind of, when we're over, I need to move it back so that it's ready for the school on Monday. So the custodians don't have to do it. If the custodians go into overtime because we left it a mess or not arranged well, then we're charged by the hour again for their time. And then it would be time and a half for the custodians if they go beyond 3 o'clock. So that's part of the reason why I moved it to 11 to 1 now, so that we don't have that crisis of running into overtime with the custodians. So
It is, has the cost, have you been able to get the cost down from the VFW, or is it about the same, or do you know? I mean,
the cost now at the school is quite a bit less than it was at the VFW, almost half.
oh,
But I did have signs made the first year, but then the snowstorm kind of damaged a few signs, bent them up because of the winds, and then like a foot of snow on top of the signs that were laid down flat. And I made the mistake. I should have done it two-sided, but that would have cost more money again. So I try everything I do. I try to be cost efficient and don't cost the club more money. So I just did my own writing on the backside of those signs that I had printed. But because we've got reduced hours, that's what kind of keeps the cost lower than the VFW. If we did extend it, which I kind of like the 2 hour span because it does make sense. The more concentrated you can have it, the more I think sales are better when they're concentrated like that. But when I have a garage sale, once I set it up, I do it for 3, 4 days just because it is so much work.
Yeah.
So, but I don't want this to go 3, 4 days. No way.
so talk about the attendance of these. How has that changed over the years? I guess Valerie, did it start out at a smaller and then it kept building, or I know there's been some issues with COVID and the large snowstorm in 2023 and stuff, but how has attendance been generally? And also, do you keep track of member versus non-members that actually come to the swap meet?
First couple years I had a sign-in sheet, I think mostly out of curiosity, so I could keep track of, like you said, members, non-members, and then the nonprofits, those people. And I usually did keep a sheet of those just so I knew who to contact the next year. And I only did that for a couple, 3 years, and it's like, yeah, kind of got rid of that. But I think we had a pretty consistently around 300 people.
Oh,
And I'd say, I don't know, Gosh, at least 75, vendors or nonprofits. I mean, there's a big group of people selling. So, yeah, it was probably more than that, but yeah, I just kind of stopped keeping track.
Well, I think I need to up that because I don't have nearly that many vendors this year at all. Maybe some will sign up at the last minute, unless people just don't have that much surplus anymore, but I would assume they do. A lot of people don't like to sell their own stuff, and deal with that. And I think the number of buyers coming is down because I had that change in location when you had it all set up for many years. That I knew that was going to hurt the attendance, but I'm hoping it'll come back and kind of get up there again, because I think we're looking at, I think last year, and then we had the snowstorm on top of that. So we had a couple of brutal years to kind of get moving along. So I'm hoping things will pick up again, because it's just a good, if you want to get rid of stuff, clean out stuff, or buy stuff, it's a good way to do it. Get into biking and, not spend an arm and a leg to begin with, and upgrade as you go. So.
I
Yeah,
know
just
my own experience.
reiterating on what you said, I mean, that was definitely, I think one of the main things for me is people who are new to cycling, don't have a lot of money or don't want to drop a lot of money. They can get all their gear, at a good reasonable rate, find out if you like it, type thing.
Yeah, and talking about location again, I know what you were saying, Linda, but I mean, it is so much nicer with parking and stuff. The VFW, I know, was a little bit more of a problem trying to find a place to park. And again, that was sort of located on the west side of town, and now you're kind of more on the northeast. So maybe it's just a matter of time before people get used to that.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. I'm not adverse to driving across the metro like that, which is not a problem, but certainly if it's closer, it is a little more convenient. But the thing I didn't like was the parking. I found that really difficult, and people that had a lot of stuff to get in. It was a good setup though. Hopefully it'll, kind of even out here as we settle into this location, if we stay there, which I'm guessing I will, unless something changes with the school setting, but I don't foresee that.
So, Linda, tell us all about the April 5th swap meet. What do you got on board so far?
Well, I hope there's no snowstorms coming. I don't know. I think there's supposed to be snow this weekend, isn't there? Or rain. I don't know. I don't know. That's why I moved it into April, thinking, what if there is snow and I'm still skiing? Actually, I would do a out west ski trip, and that was kind of like I was getting back and having to organize the swap. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a little more time. So I moved it that one year to April 1st. And what a joke that was, a foot of snow.
Yeah, I know it was always a trick because like the Ironman and stuff was so early, and there were some other organized rides that start so early in April. And so I ended up, kind of sticking to March, even though it was early. It was like, okay, we're not, in conflict with those. There was a good story though once, because I was on a trip in Ireland and I didn't come home till the night before the swap meet. So I had left Mike Beatles the passcode to my garage. I said, if you don't hear from me by midnight, go to my garage, get all the stuff. Of course, my flight was on time. It was all good, but it was like, okay, that was kind of close. Yeah.
Anything else that you want to talk about before we open up to questions?
I think so.
Oops, I forgot to unmute there. I just sent out an email or on the forum asking everyone to please print out the flyer and help spread the word. And then just bring it. You can get 2 to a page. If you only want to do 1 page, that's fine. I mean, 4 would be great, but you're going to cut the page in half, drop it off in 2 or 4 places that will help advertise and spread the word. And that doesn't cost any of us anything to do that. So if every member did that, it would be absolutely fantastic. Grocery stores, it shouldn't really matter where you put it, but the Y I know won't let us put them there.
Have you hit the bike shops? There's some places that you definitely want to hit?
I kind of haven't done the bike shops. I just kind of feel like it's kind of conflicts with the store. I don't know how everybody else feels there, but I've kind of avoided doing that. But maybe I will do it this year.
So I think from the beginning until now, I mean, social media has helped a lot more now too, right? With getting the word out, Facebook.
Yep, I think I have gone to every one of my friends and posted on their timeline advertising for it. So if they can continue to spread it, I don't do any other social media, so I'm not suave with that. But if anybody else knows how to do that, let me know and help me out there, spread the word. But again, for me, I don't want to infringe a lot of cost to the club. I want to keep it kind of, low key. It's a benefit to the members. It will create advertising and maybe attract new members to the club. I think anytime you can bring new people in, it's always good for them to get a look at the club.
Yeah, when we had the TCBC booth area, we always, some people just took the opportunity to renew since it was spring, but then we always did sign quite a few new members too. So whether they were going to join anyhow, I don't know, and just took the opportunity, but it did feel like it was a good way to attract members.
Are there other big swap meets in the Twin Cities areas, bike swap stuff?
There were at least two of them. They charged like $25, $50, $100 a table. And again, it's just like, okay, I don't want to get into that. And a lot of us just don't really have that much, and it's not really worth it to pay that. And so it was just like I said, I just wanted to keep it real simple. But yeah, there were at least two other big swap meets. And I know I'd been to at least one of them, one or two of them, but yeah.
Yeah, I've been to one that I think was at Long Lake that I stopped probably the last 2 years after the Sunrise Solitude. I would swing by, and of course it was towards the end, but then people are really willing to deal. So I got some really good deals. But and that one now I believe is still going, but it's moved to Richfield. So I will probably check it out. I think they do a wonderful job of where they're advertising, but they're also collecting $5 entrance fee for everybody to come in. So that helps cover your cost of advertising or rental space or whatever. And they're selling tables too, so which we're not. It's a benefit to the members.
Traditionally, there's been a big one at the state fairgrounds. And I think that was both skiing and biking, and maybe some other sports as well. I don't know if it's still going or not, but I remember it from years ago.
And I'm like Linda. I think every year I've gone, I've found things to do. And when I first moved here, that was a real good introduction to the club and getting some of the club items also. So I think the socks and stuff that you were selling, Valerie. So I don't see any questions in the chat, but let's open it up, or maybe it's not even a question. If people just want to talk about their experience with the swap meet, please come forward.
I'm just going to reiterate again what I said again. The volunteers are everything. I mean, there's no way Linda and I could do this by ourselves. I mean, we'd had such a good group of self-starters, like you said, after they come once or twice, it's like, you know what to do, and they absolutely have made the whole thing. I mean, it's totally a volunteer effort. I mean, Linda and I just kind of take the helm and point people in the right direction, but it is a group effort for sure.
Oh, I remember one other good thing I got. I think it was last year. It was a rear cassette for a 10-speed bike that was pointed out by somebody in the club, or maybe even on the screen, that I'm gonna have put on my oldest road bike at a bargain price.
Excellent. Dan, you have a question. I'll let you ask that. You there, Dan?
I'm here.
Oh, you go.
How would a TCBC ride through a community garage sale work with Linda leading the ride?
Well, I have gone to garage sales myself with my bike, pulling a bike trailer. And when it's full, we have to go home and unload
Mhm.
and then go back for more if need be. But there is an area in Cottage Park here in White Bear, and anybody that Carol is probably familiar with the Cottage Park area, but that's almost easier to bike through or walk through than take your car. I mean, it works, but any of these, I don't, they don't seem to be quite as big as they used to be. When I've seen citywide or whatever, they still are. I kind of don't stop. I don't make a point in going anymore. I only, if I'm driving by, I stop. So I'm always, it might be Saturday and it might be the last day of the sale. And it's like Valerie says, oh, there's nothing left. And it's like, well, I can still find something. Sometimes I've found my best deals on the last day. But yeah, I've thought about that, but it's a little hard to organize a group through an area. And, how far do you want to go to these garage sales? I mean, if they're 5 miles apart, and I don't really want to pull a trailer for a 30-mile ride. So, but it's a thought.
That would be a fun ride. Uh,
I was just going to say, I've actually done a bike ride by mistake when one of the days that the Woodbury garage sales are going on. Maybe you were on that with us one time, Linda.
I don't recall if I was on it. The only thing that the Woodbury, I know in the past from being at the Woodbury garage sales, there are a lot of cars and
Yes.
it's really concentrated. I don't know if I would necessarily want a group
No.
riding through there by choice.
No, this was a mistake. I didn't realize it was going on. Yeah. No, it was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I probably went, if I was on that ride, I probably went back to my car and drove back there to go to it.
I'll share one thing. Last year was the first year that I went and sold anything. And I have actually another jacket I'll probably sell this year, but I sold a jacket last year. And I'm sure it was a $150 jacket. I'd hardly worn it. And the guy that bought it gave me $60 for it and is very happy. So it was always really tight through the hips for me. So I don't know how it happened, but it seems like it was built for a man and not for a woman.
That was the other thing people would always ask me, well, how much should I sell this for? I don't know. It's like, I'd say, do you want to get your money back or do you want to get rid of it?
I see there's some comments, George, Dan. Dan, did you want to?
Some of my favorite experiences are just catching up with people I haven't seen throughout the winter. And it's sort of always been the beginning of the spring or the next year, the new year of bike riding. And so the bike ride afterwards and just the commensurating and looking at stuff. I'm not much of a buyer, but it's just good to hang out and be with people.
And George had a comment, thank you for all the work on the swap meet. And then Valerie, you put one in. I didn't realize there's a volunteer happy hour afterwards.
There usually was. Yep. We were all so tired and thirsty and hungry. And so we'd often go to the local pub and have a little relax and celebration afterwards.
I might have to add that. I haven't done that, but I got to pick up signs after. So I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
it doesn't work real well, but I suppose I could meet, but that's a thought. Maybe consider that.
Have people posted rides to the swap meet? I mean, actual TCBC rides?
Yeah, I think Mike Beatles has been one of the main leaders of that. Yeah, either before or after, or I think I've had both one year, so
Oh, great.
yeah.
And I
And
see that
again, yeah, the VFW was convenient and cheap, but yeah, the parking was atrocious. And every year I try to find another spot, and it's like I could I couldn't find anything available at a decent price. And then schools were like, "Well, you can have it, but if a school event comes up 2 days before, we'll kick you out." I'm like, "Wait a minute, I can't do that." So we just kind of ended up going back there by default because it just was having a hard time finding a better alternative. So. Yeah. And I guess that was the other thing often have people come in and or not often, usually one every year. Well, you should do this. Well, you could do this, or how about do it this way? And why don't you do it this way? And I'd like, it's a great idea. If you want to run it next year, you're more than welcome to do it that way. And then they usually quiet and walk away quietly. But yeah.
Well, we all certainly appreciate Valerie for starting this and doing it for so many years, and Linda for picking up. I mean, it's a big job in and of itself, just coordinating all that, coordinating the volunteers and working with the facilities. So thank you both for on behalf of the club for all that you do. So I will get this ended up unless there's any other comments. We can take that. So thanks again to Valerie and Linda for speaking to us tonight. Some really great information. Also, a big thanks to all of you for attending the session. The recording will be up shortly after it is uploaded to our TCBC YouTube channel. The link will be in the notes for the session on the Bike U webpage. The TCBC Bike U Council of Regents is working on other sessions. And so we are in progress on sessions on professional bike fitting, TCBC communication, kind of looking at, we've had questions about, how do I do this and how do I navigate the website and stuff? So Dan is actually working on that and possibly on bicycle safety. If you've got ideas, please let us know. All you have to do is send an email to bikeu@biketcbc.org, and the council will discuss them at our next meeting. So I thank you all for attending, and we hope to see you again next time.